4, follow traffic, clear visual approach, runway 4 right, maintain 17, John Austin, 5 mile final. 17 till 5 out.
How important are soft skills in the Part 135 world? More so than you may think. From the National Business Aviation Association, this is Flight Plan. I'm Rob Finfrock. Practically any job in business aviation requires high-level skills and knowledge, and sometimes that focus on the technical aspects takes priority over development of the soft skills that are also incredibly valuable in a team environment. With more, here's David Keys, Chief Pilot at Peace River Citrus Products and Chairman of the NBAA Domestic Operations Committee.
We spend most of our time learning systems and regulations and learning the technical side of this business. We graduate students from these colleges and flight schools that can pretty much tell you how an airplane operates, but then when they get into the workforce, they've not been equipped with the soft skills. They interacting with crew members, having leadership qualities, being part of a team. So I think that's an important topic that we just aren't addressing in the primary and the secondary programs. And for a long time, we in our industry really haven't. As long as you're a good pilot, then we put you in the airplane. But we're finding more and more that without the soft skills, that there's conflict and there's issues, and you just don't get a quality operation.
I'm also joined today by Melanie Height and Ben Vannikirk, who are the co-chairs of NBAA's Part 135 subcommittee to the DOC. Melanie, how have you seen soft skills come into play in your role as a charter captain and instructor at Open Air?
I can think of a few different examples. As far as communication skills goes, for some people that comes naturally, for other people not so much. Communication skills, whether it's in a social or a technical environment, is pretty important when it comes to flying, right? Because you have to be able to effectively communicate with the person that you're in the cockpit with. In addition to that, outside the realm of communication, just having the ability to plan ahead, think logistically, and think through those things that you're planning ahead for with another person, kind of be able to bounce things off of each other, thinking ahead about fuel planning or where your FBO is, and being able to have communications about the weird things that might come up. That's all sort of a part of a successful operation.
Ben, in your day job as a check airman at a large Part 135 operation, have you found that those just starting out in the industry are lacking in these soft skills?
It's my anecdotal experience that industry-wide, with this big rush of new entrants into the market, that there is both a lack of soft and hard skills with all the people that I work with. And I might fly with someone that only flew a 172 and I introduce him to his first jet, or a seasoned 121 veteran that has never worked in 135. And there are very specific soft skills that are required working in 135 that the 121ers don't know. So there's, across the board, a definitive opportunity for everyone to develop their soft skills and then give that attention. And there's ways to do that.
I think we need to be careful to make a generational judgment. I came into the industry in the 70s and flew with captains that they were the captain. You sat over there, kept your mouth shut, didn't touch anything until they told you what to touch, which really, if you think about it, was the premise for the CRM movement, with too many accidents were occurring because the crew were afraid to speak up with the authoritarian captain. Now, we've come a long way since then, certainly in the 121 world, and I think even in the 135 world. But I think you're battling a little bit against personalities in that people drawn to our industry are technically focused. Maybe equate to an engineer type person, if you in your mind, if you think of that, where it's getting the tasks done. So when we start talking about soft skills, you're almost asking them to get a little bit out of their comfort zone and use the other side of their brain when it comes to interpersonal, the leadership, the things that Melanie talked about. But coming from a generation of autocratic captains to where we are today, obviously the younger pilots did not grow up in that era. So I think we have to approach it a little different than we did back in the 70s and 80s and 90s when we were creating CRM and trying to crack that wall.
Dave brings up a few key points, Ben, especially when it comes to how soft skills tie directly to crew resource management that's so important in a safe flight operation. So if new pilots may not have those soft skills upon entering the industry, how can we help develop them?
New entrants to the market can develop their soft skills using hard skills they may already have to complement these soft skills. Let's start with decision making, which is such an important part of our career, our entire career, no matter where we fly. We need to be a soft skill of situationally aware. We need to be able to employ critical thinking. We need to problem solve. As Melanie said, teamwork is such an important thing of what we do. And there are hard skills that you can develop and spend your own resources and time on becoming better. And for example, if you understand your aircraft, your POH, your AFM, and your SOPs, it leads to better decision making. If you do go into detail with proper flight planning, and you know your alternates and the requirements of these and what are available there before you even take off, your situational awareness is better. Work on your manual flight proficiency and also understand the what's and the ins and outs of your emergency at normal procedures. Those hard skills will complement decision making. Another set of soft skills that I believe are very valuable would be effective communication. And this includes soft skills of conflict management, verbal skills, your vibe as a colleague, which translates to nonverbal, and your people skills. So what can you do to further these soft skills? And you can work on your crew resource management, and your company can employ annual CRM training to help pilots effectively communicate better. One thing I'm very passionate about is radio phraseology and working with ATC. Go and read up the AIM Chapter 4, Section 2, and understand how ATC will talk to you and how to talk to them to effectively communicate with them. And one thing that we're passionate about in the 135 and the subcommittee and the entire DOC is using a forward-thinking risk management model, which is as easy as briefing before you depart and before you land. So those hard skills assist effective communication. And lastly, leadership, as we already alluded to, is such an important part. And I want to speak to all the new SICs out there. Leadership isn't a captain or co-pilot. Leadership is displayed as a good colleague. So leadership, soft skills are professionalism, your work ethics, self-motivation. You need to present yourself and set a good example. And hard skills you can use to complement your leadership is technical expertise. Know your field. Be a strategic planner, even if it's just 2 or 3 legs today. Know your legs before you even take off. Have your flight planned out and so that there's no surprises.
Great examples, Ben. Melanie, I've also seen computer-based training programs specifically geared toward developing soft skills. And that surprised me a bit, as I think in a lot of cases, those traits tend to emerge through our interactions with others.
I do think that there can be some structure applied when you're training for these kinds of skills. Like Ben was saying, being able to kind of translate those hard skills to those soft skills. We develop those hard skills by training and practicing and doing the same thing every time, the same way every time. I think that developing those soft skills can be done in a similar way, where you kind of get used to the routine and the language kind of rolls off the tongue better when you're trying to communicate effectively. Just like anything else, I think practice really does make perfect.
My mentor taught me that as a pilot, you're evaluated on several levels. The passengers believe you're a fantastic pilot if you do this smooth landing. Your fellow colleagues, who can only hear you over the radio, believe you're a fantastic pilot if your radio phraseology is on par. Accounting think you're a fantastic pilot if your accounting, all your receipts are always uploaded and perfect, and then the flight operations center or operations who you deal with, if you're an easy person to deal with, then not confrontational, they just think you're the best pilot. So each topic has something that you can improve on, and look at how your colleagues do it and the professionals do it, and if you don't have one, reach out, get a mentor. It's totally underrated. And most of what I know today is because of my mentor.
I see so many young folks coming out of wonderful programs, but they're not taking time to really absorb what a mentor pilot or even a senior captain or a senior pilot may pass down. Listen and watch and see how they operate. We talk about briefings. It's hard to put our egos aside. We don't like somebody telling us when we're not living up to a standard or they see a fault. But it's really the best advice you'll get going in, and take it and own it and figure out how to apply it to your situation.
I know that when I started flying Part 135, all of the pilots that I flew with that were sort of training me and were ahead of me made a point to instill this professionalism, right? And I think that all comes from a good company culture. If every pilot at the company is able to interact well, and that's something that you kind of take care of when you're hiring. But I do think that you can instill sort of a company culture that prioritizes mentorship. And whether you do that in a formal way where you hire a pilot and you say, hi, welcome to the company, your mentor is Ben, you can look to Ben to ask questions and he will help you. Or maybe it's the pilots taking the initiative to find and seek out those mentors within the new company themselves. Whichever way it goes, I think that mentorship aspect is kind of the way to go about it.
So, how would you suggest Part 135 operators can incorporate soft skills as part of their training practices or even their SOPs?
Yeah, so something sort of unique about our flight department, we do a lot of medevac operations. We do organ transport, and we operate the Vision Jet, which is single pilot operated aircraft. However, for these medevac operations, we have a safety pilot on board. So what we've done is, in a lot of cases, the safety pilot is another commercial pilot within the company who might not be flying in the Vision Jet yet or hasn't quite worked their way up to PIC for these operations. So what they'll do is they will go on these flights and they will sort of be a second set of eyes. They can help with the radios. It's sort of a great way to get that mentorship. And that was something that I had as an experience when I first started with the company. I was able to act as a safety pilot, and I learned so much from that perspective of the operation. And it really has made a difference.
It's sort of like a safety culture. You need the senior management, the senior pilots need to decide. They have a responsibility. Our industry, Rob, mostly in Part 91, but even the small 135s are having a lot of difficulties with operations closing down, going to the larger fractionals, larger 135s because of the drama within flight departments. And so that's a lack of leadership, a lack of understanding, a lack of having the soft skills that we're identifying within the industry as a whole for Part 91 and 135. So we as the industry need to wake up and say, look, we need to be creating leadership within younger pilots. We need to be creating pilots with these soft skills, or those that are hiring them or running the operations are just going to throw their hands up and say, why would I do this? Let me just go to one of the larger fractionals. So there's a cultural thing, but it's a two-way street. So the older generation, the older pilots need to be open to sharing, and the younger pilots, and it could be maintenance, dispatchers, it's not just pilots, need to be open, like I said, to listening and absorbing and asking questions. It's a two-way conversation. Young pilots have spent a lot of money obtaining the technical skills, either through flight training, flight university, or even the military folks spending their time and effort studying. Soft skills are the same thing. Invest in them, and they will pay dividends in your career. People will look at you once you develop those soft skills differently and in more esteem because you're somebody they enjoy working with. And you create a safer culture when you do that. So make the investment.
I think larger operators can create an internal mentorship program and assign new pilots that might have identified needs. For example, this one's not a strong communicator, or this one's still a bit unsure of themselves. Pair them with someone that is strong in that field and build them up. We want to invest in our staff. We want, I read it somewhere, you want to Empower your staff and invest in them to such an extent that other people want to steal them and snatch them away from you. And when that happens, you need to be proud that they went because you are the reason that they're there. And that'll foster a wonderful internal culture of working with your staff. If you don't do an annual CRM training within your organization, at least have a heading under your pilot meeting and say, any CRM updates out there? Are we seeing anything? What can we do to better use our resources? And that's not just pilots. That's using your mechanics. That's using ATC. That's using passengers to make better decision making. For example, diversions. Ask them if the weather's not great before you take off. Where do you want to go? It's just better situational awareness. And my biggest request is for small and large operators is invest in your employees, empower them, and help them help you become a better organization.
I think when we're talking about effective communication skills being a huge soft skill that factors into everything, there are sort of two sides to it from my perspective. And that's one, the safety side. It makes us safer if we can communicate effectively. Ben was making the point about sort of all of the different perspectives that you get from the different people you work with at a flight department, whether it's other pilots, air traffic control, people from finance. And that all kind of works together to make us safer. But another sort of side to it, that second side to it, I think, is just the fact that it does make things more enjoyable. When you can take pride in your work and your professionalism and enjoy the communication that you're having with your coworkers and co-pilot, I think that makes a world of difference and will just build a stronger community within business aviation.
You can read more about soft skills and CRM in the July-August 2024 issue of NBAA's Business Aviation Insider. Check out the archived issue at nbaa.org/insider. And be sure to also follow the latest developments across Part 135, including an upcoming feature with perspectives on the value of mentorship in developing leaders across our industry at nbaa.org/Part 135. And that's the latest from the National Business Aviation Association. Remember, you can subscribe to all Flight Plan episodes wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including by asking your virtual assistant or connected device. Of course, you can also download Flight Plan directly from nbaa.org. I'm Rob Finfrock. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for a new episode of Flight Plan.
Right base, sending out 3500.
All right, we got him inside. We're slowing it back to 170.